Good morning and welcome to the NBA Daily for January 27th, 2025. Coming up, are we worried about the Cavs? Maybe. They're on their way down a little bit. The Sixers have decided they are not going to tank. And we're going to talk about some things that nobody is talking about. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, guys. How's it going?
Morning.
Wow. Pretty good weekend. Did you guys have a nice time Saturday watching these rivalry games?
Yes.
How cool was it? Oh, well, you were working. Zena,
right.
The busiest person in sports.
Yes, absolutely. No question.
Tell me what you guys liked. I want to know.
Like
I love that. Again,
the meme of Jimmy Butler like lying down on the floor? That is Zena right now with the amount of,
it's
grinded.
amazing. So Saturday, we had the rivalry games. I guess this was a culmination of rivalry week. They finished it off with LeBron versus Steph. It was a pretty good time. I was sick for a day with something, maybe there was like an 18-hour flu, but I had the body aches. And I got to say, the NBA really bailed me out on what could have been a total bummer of a day with the staggered start times. I got to watch all these games. I was texting with you guys all day. I was like, oh, hey,
good
what a
day
nice
to be
Saturday.
sick, right?
I guess. I mean, look, if you got to be sick, at least have something good on.
And there was a lot on. It was insane how many games there were.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Well, let's talk about some of these games, especially the Cavs lost to the Rockets again. They've now lost 3 in a row, guys. They also dropped a game to the Sixers over the weekend, who, there's no Joel Embiid out there. So I think that this is kind of the biggest story for Monday morning is the Cleveland Cavaliers losing 3 straight. And I'm going to just throw the question out for you guys. Whoever wants to take it, go. Are they just coming back down to earth? Is that what's happening?
Well, I know Zena is the Cavs believer here. So I'll how do you feel?
I'm not concerned.
Okay.
I think that every team has to experience these types of losses, get some teach tape, get back on track. The number one thing that happened, particularly in these 3 losses, is that the Cavs put these teams at the free throw line. I mean, it was insane that the Houston Rockets were able to shoot 45 free throws in one game. Sixers got 27. Like, that is unnatural and also not normal for the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's not natural for any NBA game. 45 free throws is insane. But the Cavaliers are not typically that team. Something was going on with their defense in which they were just a step behind in all of these games. I imagine them to pick it up. I'm not even a Cavs stan, folks.
No, you're not. You're not a Cavs stan. And you know what? I called you a believer, but we're all believers.
Yeah, we believe in the Cavs.
We all believe in the
basketball
Cavs.
Team.
Yeah, absolutely. They're a very good team. And it's expected for them to kind of come down to earth a little bit, given the crazy shooting that started off this year. Like, they were the number 1 shooting team in the league. I also think a big part of this quote unquote losing streak is not having Evan Mobley for 2 of those 3 games. Right. Especially their first game against the Rockets. You could feel the physicality of the Rockets kind of battling with them. That probably leads into what you're talking about when it comes to the free throw disparity, because they couldn't handle the physicality. When Mobley came back on Saturday when they played, just didn't look like he was kind of getting back in rhythm. Didn't have the most effective game. And I think, man, when teams can throw out size against Houston and their guards, it can be against Cleveland, and their guards, it could be a really, really long night. So maybe that's a matchup thing that they have to look forward to, which might poke. It's not a big issue right now because they're a really good team, but something to look forward to for the postseason if they're trying to make that, deep run. Yeah.
Well, the teams that have bothered them, if you look, it's Houston, Atlanta. It is long, big wings. I mean, Oklahoma City, right?
Yeah.
And, they have 2 small guards. And I think the aggressiveness that we're seeing other teams approach Garland and Mitchell with is probably something that's repeatable for a handful of teams in the league. So Cleveland I think that they're in that top tier with Boston.
Absolutely.
But they, just like everybody else, are not a perfect team. I don't think anyone should have expected them to legitimately win 70 games because it's only happened twice. Like, it's very difficult to do. And I would argue that right now it's harder than it was when the Warriors did it. Like, with the way that parity works in the league and the level of talent that you have and the dispersal of talent. There, so many teams have stars, right? Like, there's not a lot of big big three. Right.
I'd argue it's better to get punched in the mouth in the regular season a little
100%.
bit and have to deal with the adversity than go unscathed. And, I feel like that was probably what happened to those 73-9 Warriors a little bit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that's why I say it's important to get some teach tape now rather than waiting until, playoffs come. And I think it's also important to note these teams played well. Let's give it up to the Sixers for the way they showed up.
Hey, perfect segue. Let's give it up to the Sixers because the Sixers, it's come out that they are not going to tank. David Aldridge wrote about it over at The Athletic. Go and read that from our guy. He doesn't necessarily agree with them. I don't think I agree with them. But the truth of the matter is, guys, they won a couple of games over the weekend. They beat Chicago. They beat Cleveland. They're 3 games behind Chicago for that last play-in spot. Yep. And that's really what they're playing for, is probably that last play-in spot.
Correct.
Because at this stage in the game, they can't tank enough to save that pick.
They're not bad enough to get to bottom 6 because the bottom 6 is pretty established right now between, Toronto, Charlotte, Washington, New Orleans, Portland, Utah, Brooklyn in the mix for that. That 7-team race right there for the bottom. It's hard to get into the mix for that. And Philly is sandwiched right in between that and the Eastern Conference play-in race. And you think about that plus Maxi's load, Paul George in that article saying, you know what, my priorities aren't necessarily to lose. My priorities are to try and win basketball games. So I don't think it would go well with the players either if they decided to pull the plug on this season. And for what it's worth, I think given where they're at, it probably makes sense for them to try their best to do this. But the whole Embiid equation of this thing is what makes this interesting, because is he going to come back in time? Right. Will they be that feisty play-in team that we've seen in past years? Remains to be seen.
I mean, go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say, look, Zena, like he just said, Paul George says he doesn't want to lose, although we got to wait on the word of the MRI from his pinky. To see if he can contribute to some winning. But
hey, I've dislocated a pinky. It hurts.
It hurts.
Just saying. It does hurt.
Your pinky toe or your pinky, it hurts. It impacts a lot of
Paul George,
things.
you were the belle of the ball last summer. You signed the big contract to go play at a team that you thought had a chance to win a title because Joel Embiid is there and he's an MVP. I get it. They probably have to just do this because PG wants to.
And if you look at Paul George's numbers over the course of this season, it's playing right into what he's saying, where his priorities are to win. He split up between November, December, and January about the same amount of games, 9, 11, and 10. And if you look at his numbers in November, when he was first coming off of injury, adapting to a new team, obviously getting back into the midst of playing basketball, his numbers were abysmal. They were not what he's capable of putting up. Okay, let me just read this off. 28.6% from the field in November.
Yeah.
This month, in his 11 games, 44.7%. Huge jump.
Much better.
Much better. If you look at just January, he's had 5 25-plus point performances just in the month of January. This guy can put numbers up. He just hasn't been. And so you're seeing a continual growth, not only his field goal percentage, his 3-point percentage. He's right now 4th best 3-point per shooter in the month of January for anyone that's taken 75 more shots from beyond the arc. Number one, that's a lot of shots coming from beyond the arc for a mid-range shooter like Paul George. Again, playing into my priorities are to win. He's going to find a way to score. He is a 3-level scorer, and he's getting better at the way that he's scoring out there for the Sixers.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt that Tyrese Maxey is also on a streak with the amount of games that he's putting up 20-plus points games.
Right.
Kel'el Ware Jr. putting up some points as well. I like the way that the Sixers are fighting right now, and it absolutely confirms they're not trying to tank.
It's this weird situation where they're not trying to tank, but they might be thrown into a situation where they will be, because
the next 10 games look like?
This next stretch of basketball, they play the Lakers, they play the Kings, Nuggets, Celtics, Mavericks, Heat, Pistons, Bucks again. They play the Celtics later that month. They got a couple games against the Knicks and Warriors. So
that's rough.
Their schedule is pretty tough.
They better hope the Bulls do trade away their good players because the Bulls have a 3-game lead right now. The Sixers have a really hard schedule. That division is not really easy outside of Washington.
Totally. And we talk about like margin of error, like when it comes to no Embiid, when it comes to this team and the veterans, like older guys, you don't have that margin of error. Tyrese Maxey is second in the league in minutes per game. They are trying to win these games and doing it off of their stars, but yeah, it's going to be tough, man. It's a very
Tyrese Maxey's going to be a great Nick one day, or he's going to be a perfect Tom Thibodeau
guy. Is just drooling right now.
Nurse is very Thibodeauian in the way
he is Thibodeauian, dude. Yeah. It's basketball coach thing. You want to play your best players as much as possible. Guys, stick around after the break. We're going to talk about some stuff that nobody is talking about. Guaranteed, or your money back. All right, we are officially almost through the dog days of the NBA season. That means we get to dig in on some numbers. We get to go and look at what some people are doing, what some teams are doing, and say, hey, nobody's seen this yet. Now, mine might not be that great. This is a pretty good basketball team that I think we've been talking about all year. But I don't think anyone has seen this. Nobody is talking about the fact that the Clippers are 6-1 since Kawhi Leonard came back with Kawhi Leonard. Now, he's missed some games in there, and they lost 3 of those. But they are 6-1 with Kawhi Leonard on the court. With Kawhi and James Harden on the court, they have a 124 offensive rating and a 96 defensive rating, both of which would be first. They would be historic. It is absurd. Now,
that's absurd.
Listen, I will say this. It is a small sample size. It's extremely noisy. They played the Nets and beat them by 60. But they have, in those wins, won every game by double digits. They had a 26-point win as well. I think the lowest margin of victory in those 6 wins was 11 points. This is a really good basketball team, guys, that makes so much more sense when their best player is actually on the court.
I am fascinated with the way they are using Kawhi right now. You know, as a guy who loves soccer, I see the super subs, right? And a guy who just plays for 20 minutes at the end of a game or throughout a game to come and just give you that extra boost. And he's incredible. He probably could start if he wants to. Obviously, Kawhi starts in this case, but like he gives you 20 to 25 minutes of excellent basketball. And then he's like, all right, cool. My job is done. I'm going to plug out, punch out, and I'm good. I'm not sure how that formula goes long term. We'll see how the Clippers manage his minutes and if he ends up getting, playing 30 minutes and 35 minutes eventually. But it's really cool to see how they're using him sort of as this like closer or innings eater on offense, which is really, really fun.
I mean, it helps when you have James Harden dropping 40.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I love the fact that this has shifted James Harden's game as well. Like all season long, we saw James Harden be this distributor and this person that was creating as well as a scorer. And then also on defense, you saw him getting deflections. I mean, he was not leading the league, but top 10 in deflections in the league at one point. And it was like he had to do Kawhi and him all together at once to start the season. And now Kawhi's back and you're just seeing it flow so naturally between the two of them. And I'm like, wow, I actually am really excited for the vision that the Clippers had for these two starting to come together out on the court.
Yeah, look, if the Clippers wind up getting a high quality backup big somehow, do they have a hole in their rotation? They have defenders, they have shooters, they have Kawhi and Harden, they've got Zubac. I mean, this is a team that I think come playoff time matches up really, really well at full health with just about anybody.
Dave, it's just the one thing, man.
I know. It's the one thing we always have to remember. It's always health.
That's all but
they have the wall. S.
You're right. Maybe the new home court advantage changes things, man.
Maybe. I hope.
I'm happy you brought up health because that is actually going to be a nice segue into my thing that I don't think people aren't talking enough about or aren't talking at all about.
Right.
I don't know if you guys knew, but remember when there was like all of this hoopla around the fact that Cleveland went 15-0. There was a crazy streak that they had. And then OKC had a crazy streak. And then they played each other and one person's streak was broken and the other person's streak was broken. And then we haven't talked about streaks in a very long time. The person or the team that has the longest active win streak right now is Memphis. And tonight, they're going into their next game with 6 games in a row. They are on a roll. And if you ask them what is contributing to their success, they're talking about the fact that they're one of the healthiest teams out on the court right now.
True.
And who's been leading that effort? The person I really feel we're not talking nearly enough about. And that is Jaren Jackson Jr. Period. This man is 6'10", with a bag like a guard,
yes,
guarding 1 through 5, leading the Memphis Grizzlies in points, in blocks, in steals. He's actually one of only 3 people in the league doing that, leading their team in points, blocks, and steals. The only other 2 are Anthony Davis and someone we talk about all the time, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is where Jaren Jackson Jr. is there. And the reason why I feel like we're not talking enough about him, because the All-Star voting was so disrespectful. Okay.
Interesting.
This man
like
came
that.
back 10th in All-Star fan voting. Didn't cross 400,000.
Yeah, he needs more respect.
He needs way more respect.
I agree, man.
Let me ask you guys this.
Yeah.
Look, is Memphis, and we know Jimmy Butler's trade list is every team but Memphis and Miami.
Which
I don't
is
even
ridiculous.
know what Memphis did wrong.
I know.
Ridiculous.
They've got that amazing Bass Pro Shop in the Giant Pyramid. I know a lot of the stuff is built near the highway, but man, Memphis, I think, is the one market, guys, that players that are there can actually complain about being a small market, because we really don't talk about the Grizzlies enough.
We don't, man.
They're going to maybe be a top 4 seed in the West after the year they had last year. And then Jaren Jackson's putting up these sorts of numbers.
You could argue Jaren Jackson. Actually, I don't even know if it's an argument. Jaren is their best player this season.
He is.
I think
he
down.
recently. No, listen, Dave. They literally in their 6-game winning streak, they had a 4-game homestand. They went 4-0 in that homestand. Jaren Jackson averaged just under 26 points a game. In that 4-game homestand. Like, he is not only their best scorer, their best defender, he is consistent. He is their best consistent player. The most I hear about the Grizzlies on a consistent basis is that dang Draymond Green commercial where his daughter's like, what about the Wolves? And he's like, gotta watch out for the Grizzlies. Like, that's it. Like, that's the extent of it.
Yeah. Gotta get these guys on national TV more.
You know what's great about Jaren, and you mentioned the injuries, like last year, he was their most healthy core player.
Correct.
I think last year, experimenting, trying to create and like be, this offensive hub for them has really lent into what he's doing this year.
Yeah.
I think it's like 55% of his buckets this year are assisted, which is a career low. So most of his shots he's creating on his own now, which is a really, really cool wrinkle to this whole thing, where it's like he is the offensive option for the Grizzlies, and they play really unique basketball, which is really cool. So I agree with that. Nobody's talking about the Grizzlies.
Yeah. It helps that he cleaned up the offensive fouls too. Like, he was just
took him out the games a lot.
He was a walking charge, offensively. He just kind of would trip over his feet sometimes trying to attack from the wing. So he's gotten a lot better at that. What is nobody talking to you about?
Yeah, I'm glad Zena brought up a versatile big, okay? Because I have someone who might be next up on the versatile big category, okay? He's a rookie, 15th overall pick for the Miami Heat, Kel'el Ware. And you know why it's Kel'el? He is Superman. Kryptonian. Literally, his nickname is the Kryptonian. It's so cool to watch him because he has that swag to him as well. He can do it all on the floor. He can shoot the ball. He blocks shots. He's a great rim runner, good screener, great cutter, works really well in Miami's offensive system. And he works really well next to Bam Adebayo.
Perfect for Bam.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Exactly.
Perfect player for Bam Adebayo. Actually, I saw this. So it's a small sample size, but in the minutes where Bam and Ware are playing together, they're plus 12 on the floor in like a very, very small sample size, which is great. It'd be a very, very good combination. With Bam and no Kel'el, they're -4. And with Ware and no Bam, they're actually +4. They're winning their minutes. So there's something
they're probably
there.
playing against worse players when Bam is off.
Yeah,
because knowing Spo. But I will say, this is something that we have maybe talked about for years with Bam.
Yes.
The Kevin Love edition was very much about Bam, right?
Yep.
This is a juiced up version because you have someone who's long, who plays defense. Younger, of course. Right. Yeah, that helps.
Yeah.
It came out that Miami is looking in a Jimmy Butler trade. They're looking for win now players. I think Kel'el Ware being as good as he is probably a part of that, rather than looking for other young players. Like, he looks like he's just ready to play, and which Miami just happens to find these guys all the time.
He's only played 3 games as a starter, but in those 3 games, 16 points, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks. Only guy as a rookie to do that since Wemby, which is not a crazy thing. But before that, it's Giannis, it's Duncan. It's a very, very impressive list of players who have done that consecutively in their rookie year. And I think he's just really, really useful to the way Miami plays. And if you want a guy to pair long-term with Bam in the front court, this is looking like it's him. By the way, he just became the odds-on favorite to win Rookie of the Year. So we're getting ahead of this. And so nobody talks about Kel'el Ware. All right.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, I got a question.
People wear.
I got a question for you, Es. Who's more impactful on their team? Ware on Miami or Missy?
Oh, Missy is really, really good too. And look, the Pels, they needed a big. He stepped up in a massive way. Honestly, it's fun that you mentioned that because there's a few bigs in this rookie class between Donovan Clingan, Zach Edey. You talk about Ware, you talk about Missy. Like, these are guys who are stepping in and winning their minutes almost immediately, which is rare for a rookie to do at the big.
Well, it's usually the baby bigs that have to adjust to the physicality of the league. Yeah.
Right. It used to take bigs longer. And it probably still does, like, for the guys who aren't as good. But the last few years, I feel like we've had a big man renaissance of sorts. Yeah. On the defensive end, especially, where these guys come in and day one, the speed of the game is not too fast anymore. And I don't know whether that's because of offensive development. Like, if you think about it, big men are making more offensive decisions now because they have the ball in their hands a lot more. Yeah. And I wonder if that speeds up some of the development on the defensive side. I don't know. I don't think we've got time to dig into that today. Maybe sometime this summer. Guys, it's time for some picks. Brought to you by our friends at BetMGM. It's our game of the week, and we chose Rockets at Grizzlies because this is just must-see basketball every single time. It's explosive. Correct. It's fiery. It's athletic. It's Jaren Jackson. It's Dylan Brooks. Wait. It's Amen Thompson.
Thompson.
Let me pick a fun player. Guys, who you got? Rockets, Grizzlies? I'm going Grizzlies, guys.
Yeah, and for the reasons I just mentioned around Jaren Jackson Jr., I'm going Grizzlies too. And
I can't. I'm going to go Rockets.
They own the Grizzlies.
They've beat them twice. They have their number, and it is the 2 versus the 3. So I would like to see that in the playoffs too, because that seems like a really fun series. But I got the Rockets.
And there's seeding implications. And again, I know it's early for the playoff race, but man, if the Rockets win, there's a chance they move up the ladder a little bit. Or if the Grizzlies win, excuse me, they
regardless,
can move up the ladder.
It's going to be a good game.
Past the Rockets.
It's going to be a playoff.
Yes, that's must see. The Rockets are actually must see basketball. Anybody they play, you've just got to turn them on.
And they're having a really good week.
They are.
This week is packed of really good Rockets games. Our sicko games of the week also brought to you by our friends at BetMGM. Guys, we've got the Pistons and the Pacers playing Wednesday. And if I had said a year ago, I'm watching this game for the defense, I don't know, someone would have checked me into some sort of institution, but the Pistons and Pacers defense has actually been like a really great story for the last couple of months. The Pacers and their big turnaround since they got Andrew Nembhard back. I think that speaking of somebody nobody's talking about, Andrew Nembhard and what he's done for the Pacers on defense, I like them beating the Pistons on Wednesday. I think that Cade Cunningham has been really good. I want to see what the Pacers throw at him defensively to try to make him give the ball up, but I got the Pacers.
Okay, I have a weirder, more sick game here for you guys. I have the Blazers facing off against the Orlando Magic on Thursday, and the reason I have that as a sicko game, it's a rematch from last week. Blazers absolutely smoked them in Orlando, and it was the night where Franz and Paolo came back. Everybody was healthy. Let's see how they look. They got destroyed. Okay, so it's a bounce back game for Orlando, but also the Blazers have been playing pretty good basketball recently. Scoot Henderson has been picking things up. Tumani Kamara has been really, he's like one of the most slept on defenders in the NBA. Donovan Clingan also, like we mentioned, like another rookie big who's doing well. So Blazers playing good basketball, Magic trying to bounce back and be healthy against a team that they lost against. It's a sick game, but it'll be a fun one.
Who's going to win?
I'm going to actually say the Magic. They'll bounce back in a big way. They have to. They know that they got destroyed the week before against the Blazers.
Yeah.
I don't know. I might pick Blazers in that one. After seeing the Blazers play really well on Sunday against OKC, I'm like, okay, maybe they're going to be...
They're doing some stuff.
They're be hungry for something.
They are doing some stuff. Yeah.
My sicko game is going to be a team we mentioned before, the 76ers, playing against the Sacramento Kings. This is going to be a rematch from their New Year's game on the very first day of 2025. The Sixers took an L against Sacramento, and if you watch that game, Sacramento led the whole first quarter almost. Then the Sixers came in and was like, we got this. We're going to take this. Right at the top of the third, Sacramento took it back, but then the Sixers were like, no. We got this.
Yeah, it was a great game.
Led the third, led the fourth, and right at the end of the game, Sacramento came back and beat them 113-107. So I feel as if there's going to be a little bit of vengeance. You made us start our year off wrong, Sacramento.
Right.
We allowed Domantas Sabonis to get 17 and 21 rebounds on us. We gotta get something back for you guys starting the
big Yabusele game.
What? Yeah, it needs to be a big Yabusele game.
Yes, Gershon needs to step up. So
Zena,
I'm choosing the 76ers.
What acoustic guitar song is Nick Nurse going to play in the locker room before that game to get those guys fired up?
Let it be.
Great question.
Let it be.
Let it be. That's good.
That's a good way to stop this show too. Thank you guys for listening as always. And let us know what you think in the comments. What's your thing that nobody's talking about in the NBA right now? Let us know in the YouTube comments. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you guys for listening. For Es Baraheni and Zena Keita, I'm Dave DuFour, and this has been the NBA Daily. Thanks for waking up with us.